Hello and welcome to Move the Line, presented by 4for4.com. Reminder that the betting subscription at 4for4 is the only resource you need for a profitable NFL season. If you're looking to play fantasy, best ball, or just bet on any sport or market, 4for4.com is where you need to be this season. We are coming up on full draft season. I know the best ball bros have been in the streets since February, for home leagues and all that stuff. August 1st, kind of a line of demarcation for us, and then it's almost here. Really excited for that. I'm Ryan Noonan, excited to be continuing our divisional preview series, shifting to the NFC. Joined here as always by Connor Allen. What's going on, my friend?
Yeah, not a whole lot. There's a lot of injuries going on. There's a lot of things happening in camp right now. It's an exciting time for bettors, and it's an exciting time for people playing fantasy. I think this is actually the time when you get the biggest edge, because there's so many different things happening in camp and different reports that if you know what to pay attention to, there's a lot of stuff shifting behind the scenes that I don't think that everyone's even really aware of.
Yeah, expand on that a little bit. I mean, you've been you fired some season-long props, whether it's props or some futures mixing in a little bit. What's kind of your process in terms of filtering through noise? I mean, this is the noisiest time of the year, right? Just these clips of look at this guy break through, get into space. He's literally going the defenders aren't allowed to tackle, or you see these wide receivers going one-on-one with the entirety of the field against the middle linebacker in coverage. It's oh, look at this guy. It's going to be such a weapon in the passing game this year. How do you filter out what is signal and what is noise?
Yeah, the CMC clip burning the third string linebacker. If he's not burning the third string linebacker, man, he's completely cooked.
Yeah.
But
it was a Chiefs third string linebacker one yesterday, I think. I don't know. It was just what are we doing?
Yeah, so I think camp clips don't matter at all. I think that just in general, highlights don't really matter that much. But what matters is who's playing with the first team and overall bodies of work. If a beat writer's Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt from the Commanders right now,
yeah,
he's a 7th round pick, but the Commanders, I think wanted a running back in the draft, didn't get one early. They've talked about wanting to pass, catch the ball more out of the backfield. He can do that. And he's just been it's been constant steam for weeks now. He's been looking really good, and he played with the first team in a no huddle offense already. So that's something that I'm taking note of. Nothing actionable yet, but taking note of. And then another, example that I think is interesting is Joe Mixon, likely to miss some significant amounts of time. We're pretty convinced that he's I'm pretty sure that he might not play for a long time. And so I'm pretty in on Woody Marks, pass catcher, and maybe Nick Chubb. But again, the quotes out of camp from Nick Chubb, I don't know if you saw the quote from his coach.
They were tough.
It
was tough.
If they're talking about how your injuries added up and you're old and you just love football, that's not exactly a very good compliment. That's a little bit past his prime. I mean, he averaged 3.3 yards per carry and had another season-ending injury last year. So I think this might be over.
That's painful. It might be over for Mixon, though. I agree. I mean, multiple foot injuries. That's there's a lot of wear and tear on him. That's troubling. For folks, obviously, it's not something we could take advantage of in the betting markets. But again, kind of another one of our move the line curse situations where we get done doing the show, and then there's some pretty big breaking news within the conference after we get done. So buckle up, NFC North, because something's going down here. AFC West went sideways after we got done recording. I don't even know it was up yet. We literally just logged off, and it was we had Rasheed Rice news, and we had something else too, was Christian Wilkins. We had there's more stuff. So NFC North today, kind of look out. So yeah, I am fascinated because I think we think a lot alike. We come at it from different vantage points, and I think we like to attack the market in different ways. So I always like to get kind of just your thoughts about how you're going about it this time of year, because look, we've been doing this together for a long time. Proof is in the pudding. We both have had a lot of success in futures and preseason stuff. We just do it very differently, and I think you've even shifted more dramatically. I'm terrified, Connor. If I have a couple of season long overs that I like, I don't even want to post them. I just want to bet them. I don't even want to tell you about them.
Yeah, because I'm just gonna give you hell about it. We were given one of our other guys who Hunter, who played like 6 season-long overs last year, and I think he won like 4-2 or something like that. He had a pretty good year on him. But I was like, yeah, you almost gave me a coronary out there. To be fair, I think tackles are different. I think that's just like a whole different ball game. Like,
Sure, sacks too.
probably,
I think,
there's probably a much bigger edge with like tackle props like in overall. So I think that makes sense. But just like season-long overs are real tough. I prefer to play alts. One that I think is like crazy undervalued again right now along the lines is like the Woody Marks Rookie of the Year is 150 to 1. That's pretty interesting to me if he's going to play a pretty good big role there. So like, I don't know, play alts. If they do smash, you're getting good range of outcomes there. If things go poorly, or just don't go awesome, which it has to do for you to win it over, then it's just going to go under. So I got some more unders cooking. Actually, I got 2 more that I was going to release today. Probably one after the show because one's in the NFC North.
I just finished my full season long, full roster tackle and sack projections. There are no tackle numbers in the market right now. There are sacks, but it's just in a couple of books. I really want those to become more widely available because I think there are a handful of both overs and unders on both sides for us to attack. So yes, nice. For sure. And that's kind of how we split it last year too. But I did not go into the level of detail that I did this year and feel really good about the process and some of the numbers. And excited for that. So 4for4.com/plans is where you want to be. That is going to get you the betting sub. Really exciting news coming very shortly on some of the extended offerings that we'll have this season as well. So check that out. 4for4 bets on the YouTube channel. Move the line wherever you listen to podcasts. Come back next week. We'll have more to share on kind of what the 4for4 sub is going to look like this year. And we could not be more excited to share that with you. So all good things. Just, again, no matter what you're doing on the football speculation side, the betting sub is going to cover that and all that we have at 4for4. So check that out. Reach out if you have any questions. Again, 4for4.com/plans. NFC. We're going to start with the North, a fantastic division. It was last season. This was a highest winning percentage for a division in league history. None of them won a playoff game. But again, I think we could see another scenario where we have 3 playoff teams. It is a loaded division. We'll start with the Lions coming off of a 15-win season. They are 11-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 550 to win the conference, plus 155 to win the North, and their win total 10.5 is juiced slightly to the under. You turn the ball over a bunch in the playoffs, and we got ourselves one of the biggest playoff surprises in a number of years with Washington going into Detroit there and winning a lot of games. Connor, comes at a cost. They lost both coordinators. Finally, they took head coaching jobs. It's kind of been rumored for a handful of years. I think the Ben Johnson one in particular is painful because not only do you lose him with a defensive-minded head coach, but he stayed in the division. We'll obviously get to that shortly. But incredibly talented roster. Natural regression here, though, obviously, after you win so many games and get your coordinators pouched. What do you think here on the Lions?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of factors here that make me a little bit nervous in the Lions. And I think that some of the win total and stuff here is hanging on to a lot of what we saw last year. So, I mean, we're looking at, obviously, the coordinators changed, like you mentioned. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a little offseason, cleanup, it seems like. And he's, still not ready. I mean, he's a vet. But, like, I think that, Jameson Williams can easily take a step forward. But, again, that's another kind of like, I don't know, dissenting issue there. David Montgomery also, I think, had like an offseason injury as well. And he's like, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to play a bigger role. Again, all good things. But my biggest thing is like the offensive coordinator situation. So instead of internally promoting a guy, which I don't even know if they had anyone left after Aaron Glenn took Tanner Engstrand to the Jets with him. And then, and then the Lions hired John Morton from the Broncos. Seems like he has some stints with Sean Payton at the Saints. He worked with Harbaugh. Like, I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's hard for me to think that it's going to look exactly like what Ben Johnson was doing, even if he wants it to. Like, he wasn't in the building. He wasn't involved in that. And we've seen Jared Goff be a sum of his parts quarterback his entire career. Like with Jeff Fisher and nothing around him, he was awful. With, Sean McVay and stuff around him, he was awesome. Comes to Detroit, he stinks because he has nothing around him in an Anthony Lynn offense. And I think actually John Morton was in the building for that season, if I remember correctly. And then And then obviously Ben Johnson comes over. They add more weapons. The offensive line becomes way better, and now he's really good again, or he's like above average, I would say. And so I worry that like if everything's not perfect for Jared Goff, that this offense is like sneaky downside in some sense there, or it's just not quite, doesn't reach the levels that we saw with Ben Johnson. And then defensively, you can probably speak more on it too, but I think Aaron Glenn made a lot out of, by the end of the year, they just had no one left. So they were just blitzing like every play. And then it took Jaden Daniels just to like rip them, basically extended time and rip them downfield. And that led to the NFC game that caused a lot of problems for them. So I think under 10.5 wins is interesting. I have a lot of questions here about both sides of the ball and the schedule at Baltimore, at Kansas City, at Washington, at Philly, at the Rams. That's outside the division. That's not even in the division. Those are like outside the division games that are like really tough playoff teams, basically. So I don't know. It's going to be a tough season.
Yeah, from a conference level, they're playing the NFC East and AFC North. So the North versus the North makes it pretty tricky. And then, the Lions' unique 3 is pretty tough. I mean, at Kansas City, at the Rams, home to Tampa, which is tougher than obviously some of their peers here too. So, yeah, the John Morton thing is interesting. I mean, yeah, he's been around for a while. We had one instance of him being an OC back with the Jets in 2017. Insane roster. Went back, I'm like, what was that roster?
Who was hired? I don't even know.
It was Josh McCown quarterback season with Robbie Anderson as the basically only pass catching weapon and Bilal Powell at running back. So it's hard to extrapolate anything of what we could expect from John Morton. But I guess I completely blacked out that was a thing that happened in the last decade, that we had a full season of Josh McCown in New York with the Jets and Robbie Anderson. So yeah, not great. So I'm with you. I think my concern here, just in terms of not knowing what we don't know about John Morton, is the offensive line, where he's arguably the best in the league, or at least top 3, especially the last couple seasons. You lose Frank Ragnow, he retires, one of the best centers in the league. Kevin Zeitler took the bag with the Titans. Taylor Decker, left tackle, on PUP offseason shoulder surgery. So we don't necessarily have a timeline yet there. So just a lot of just a lot of downside. Like, it's the core of what we're talking about, like propping Goff up behind an insane offensive line with great weapons and arguably one of the best talent maximizers and play callers in the league. Talent's still really good. Offensive line seems to have taken a step back, and then we don't know what the coordinator is. So there is, I think, more volatility here. Defensively, they did stay in-house. Linebacker coach Calvin Shepard to DC. Aiden Hutchinson's the big news, though, defensively. I mean, he was in, I think, runaway defensive player of the year situation going on, but a team that won 15 games, and he was going to have north of 15 sacks and probably some big plays. Like, he was kind of having an insane season. He's back. I don't think there's any concern. Like, there were talk last year that if they were to make it to the Super Bowl, that he was going to be ready to go. So we've had the whole offseason for him to be back, and he looks to be the part so far what we've seen in camp. So I'm not worried about him at all. But what do we see? How much is he going to kind of carry over in terms of, like you said, some of the aggressiveness, some of the man tendencies that we saw, some unknowns there as well. So I think they're kind of in, middle of the pack. Just with Hutchinson back, I think they could be just better, just keeping him upright. So I'm with you. I don't know. I'm not dying to bet under 10.5, but also definitely not interested in over on the 10.5 either.
I mean, you're going to be sweating every single game. Like, it's like just crazy how like every game is tough because like in their division, we'll get to it. But like, I think all of these teams are legit playoff teams.
Yeah.
And some of them Super Bowl contenders, and maybe all of them Super Bowl contenders if they, hit their ceiling outcomes this year, which I think is, again, very possible here. But like, I don't think they're more than 7-point favorites once all season. That's against the Giants. I mean, I guess Browns too. So twice all season. Like, that's not a team that I want to bet, against, bet the over on their win total, because it's like, again, every game is going to be close. They have to win close, tough games the entire year. So any snow games here down the road, week 18, potentially at Chicago. That's probably it. Who knows if Goff even plays in that, depending on where they're at. But, again, we got another good little snow narrative there. Love my baby hand Goff, late season narrative. That is, it's not like you have to bet it every year, but it works out if it's cold enough.
Yeah, that was turd in the punch bowl for his MVP case last year. It doesn't seem like it'll matter here. You never know. I mean, Bears viable week 18 can matter if we think this division is kind of, I don't know, just kind of regressing to the mean on both ends. I think we kind of think that's what's happening here. There's just not a lot of layups in the schedule, to your point. Like the Browns game, the Giants game, those are both at home where you said they're north of a touchdown, but just a bunch of other games that I don't want to say coin flips, but games they can definitely lose, especially if this offensive line ends up being sort of a situation. So I think part of it is just what you can do when you dictate tempo and you dictate just in terms of the score, like what you could do offensively, when you're having to be a little bit more, reactionary versus kind of being able to just thump a team, it becomes a little bit different. And they really haven't had that offensively, at least the last, I guess year and a half, even towards the tail end of 23, the offense was such a like just well-oiled machine. So yeah, just all of a sudden things can change in terms of where you're at from a game script standpoint. So yeah, I like the continuity defensively. DJ Reed coming in for Carlton Davis is kind of just like a wash. But really, they can just keep everyone upright. I think they could be better defensively because I think they were like bottom third in adjusted games lost, and I feel like almost all of that was on the defensive side of the ball. So they're, I think, the deserved favorites, but I think we both agree that they are far from what the consensus favorite in like a Super Bowl darling pick that they were last year. That doesn't mean that they're not still a Super Bowl contender. It's just the road to hoe is much more difficult. So
I don't know if it's lazy, but like it feels like one of those situations where I don't know how it happens, but I don't see them winning like 12, 13 games again this year. And so like, again, it could be one of these teams stepping up. It could be the offensive coordinator's not panning out. It could be the offensive line not panning out. Like seems like there's more outs than like most of the other division favorites or most of the other teams that are at 10.5 wins. Like there's a lot of downside cases here that I think we laid out that, it's one of those of like, okay, I don't know which one's going to play out, but probably one of them happens and they don't end up winning 12, 13 games.
I mean, look, we've talked about it every episode, like more so than any other sport. Coaching matters here. And I do think there's something that's been built from a cultural standpoint, coaching wise in Detroit, but he wasn't involved. Like he's not involved in play calling. Right. And like John Morton we just don't know. Right. Like, yeah, he coached with Harbaugh, Carroll, Sean Payton. He's been here with Ben Johnson. He's been a part of some great coaching staffs. We just never know what that ends up looking like, right? The sequencing of plays, there's still great talent here, but there is significantly more variables in terms of what to expect in a situation where like calling the right play at the right time is a huge thing. And that's not necessarily something that Dan Campbell is going to be taking on now all of a sudden, right? So there's definitely just significantly more variables in Detroit. All right, Green Bay, 23rd strength of schedule. So these are all these teams have tougher than average strength of schedule. They are 22-1 to win the Super Bowl, widely available. They are 11-1 to win the NFC. You can get the division out at plus 270. Their win total at 9.5. It's slightly juiced to the under. Green Bay is fascinating to me. I think the perception of what their 2024 season is kind of interesting. I feel like there's a little bit of a sense, and I think it's quarterback related, that they maybe took a step backwards. And I get that. Like they didn't advance as far in the playoffs as they did in 2023. But I think overall they were better. I mean, they won more games. They were better from a DVOA and EPA standpoint on both sides of the ball. They had 3 Malik Willis starts mixed in there too, which I think is interesting. And then you even had Jordan Love. He got rolled up late in week 1 against Philly. I don't know that he was necessarily 100% when you kind of deal with that type of injury. That can linger a little bit, especially as you fight to get back on the field. They got to play better against tougher competition. It was just pretty clear that when they kind of tried to punch up, they had problems. They played Philly to start, and then they lost to Philly in the playoffs. And then they had, 2 other games, obviously in the division against Detroit and Minnesota. They were 0-6 in those games. They were 11-1 against the rest of their schedule. So they're kind of an interesting team to me. Youngest team in the league last year. I think they're still in line to be the youngest team in the league. Still, again, another continuity spot. What are your thoughts on the Packers?
Yeah, they're another interesting schedule team because they're actually favored in 13 or 17 games this year in look-aheads, but they're only favored by a touchdown or more in one of them. So again, it's another team that like Yeah, that looks good, but in reality, they don't have many layups in there. Like I view like the touchdown plus favorite as kind of like,
Yeah.
it's not a guaranteed win, but you're significantly better team. Like, and that's where you're like counting wins before that happens. Also, I think this Packers team might pass more. Like when Jordan Love was injured, I think Fantasy Points tweeted this out. It was like negative 8.2% passer over expectation with him playing or just like injured. Without him, with him healthy, plus 3.6% PROE, which would have been like top 10, top 8. Like they also drafted Matthew Golden. They still have Jaden Reed. Romeo Dobbs is solid. Dontavian Wicks is solid. Marshawn Lloyd just got injured in camp for like the 17th time, so I think he's just done. I think it's over there. So I think they probably still jam Josh Jacobs, but it's not going to be quite to the extent that we saw in previous years. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, this team it's tough. It's one of those where it feels like they've always had potential, they've had upside, and they just haven't quite hit it. And so like I have a tough time betting on them necessarily. I think they're a fine bet to win the division. I think they're the second best team in this division. Again, pretty clearly in my mind, but I'm curious your thoughts. They did lose some players on defense, like how that kind of impacts things.
Yeah, I mean, I think defensively, I think they underachieved a little bit last year. There's so much when you think about what we've seen historically, right back to the Rodgers days. Like, will they please take a first round quarterback or like a wide receiver? Yeah. Will they please invest? It was like, no, they just stacked first round talent on the defensive side of the ball. And a lot of it's up front, and none of it really came to fruition last year. It really is like emerged or played as well. Like some of the underlying metrics on Rashad Gary are pretty good. He hasn't really fully stepped into that like alpha that they thought he would be in 2019 when they drafted him. You still have, Kenny Clark on the roster, first round pick, Devontae Wyatt, first round pick, Lucas Van Ness, first round pick, Quay Walker, first round pick. You have a couple like Edgerrin Cooper, Javon Bullard, early second round picks. They have so much young talent that was drafted in the first or second round on the defensive side of the ball that they relied way too much on early down turnovers last year. Like they were kind of bad from a success rate against standpoint. They really were opportunistic from a defensive turnover standpoint. So that can be a little bit noisy, especially when you aren't generating a ton of pressure that can support that. But again, there's so much talent here where I think that they can really kind of come together. Like Edgerrin Cooper is a baller. I'm excited to get a full season of Edgerrin Cooper here. He was awesome for them last year. And linebacker, they used him as an edge rusher because they couldn't generate pressure from anyone else. I think the secondary is interesting. Nate Hobbs is in. So they really have like the ability to be super multiple and make lots of different like safety, nickel decisions. So there's depth here. There's a bunch of guys that have had to play starter type reps over the last couple of years that are still on the roster. So this could be a defense that just, even though they were kind of lucky in a way last year, could just ascend in a way if maybe some of the talent up front kind of comes together. So there's just a lot of upside. But again, there's so much volatility here too. If none of these guys move forward, and maybe there's something to Jordan Love kind of spinning his tires.
Yeah. And I think, the secondary you brought up is interesting because like, I think you are certainly higher on them than PFF. Hobbs, they have it 73rd out of 116. Bullard in the slot, 80th out of 98th. Nixon, 62nd out of 116. Doesn't look pretty on paper. Yeah. Obviously, with the whole Jair Alexander stuff, it seems like a little bit like of a loss. But I mean, are you confident that they are fine? I mean, safety play looks great. So
yeah. So Hobbs, I think they're going to play Hobbs outside. I don't feel great about that. He's he's big bodied, willing to kind of mix in against the run. I don't necessarily love him as a coverage corner on the perimeter. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know that you can consider Jair Alexander a real loss because they've barely had him on the field, like 30% of the snaps the last couple of years. Yeah. So Nixon, I think, is maybe better than that. Bullard, I think, is a really interesting talent. Missed a ton of time last year. Could be a really good nickel for them, I think. So yeah, I think that there's some upside here just off of, pedigree in these guys kind of stepping into, better roles. Second year with the coordinator, I think there's just, again, everything gets easier in the back end if all of a sudden you start to get some pass rush up front, right? Devontae Wyatt hasn't really been that guy, first round pick. Lucas Van Ness has been even worse, been, basically kind of an airball first round pick. Again, it's a lot of pressure on Gary and he continues to kind of fall short. So they still have, like Kingsley that they've mixed in, and Wooden and Brooks, all these guys that have like played a lot of snaps the last couple of years. So there's depth here, but they kind of need a guy to be, I guess, necessarily an alpha, but at least kind of, lead the pack and be problematic up front. And they haven't had it yet.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that is interesting. I don't have any bets on the side or on the like win total or anything here, because again, I think that they're a team that could easily take a step forward, or just again kind of live in that 8 to 10 win range and just be like a somewhat contender, win a couple games they shouldn't, lose a couple games they shouldn't, and then again just kind of live in that middle range. I did play Matthew Golden under 750. It's sitting around 700. Would still lean under. There's some reports about Jaden Reed playing more outside, so I think that there's a chance that maybe they rotate Reed, Golden, and Dobbs like inside 2 wide receiver sets. They might also just play more 3 wide receiver sets. Again, we don't know if Golden is good enough to earn targets. I'm a little skeptical on his rookie profile. I think Tucker Kraft probably plays a bigger role. I think Jaden Reed probably plays a bigger role this year. So I still lean Golden under, just as probably just so many mouths to feed, and we have no idea if he's any good. And I'm pretty confident that Jaden Reed and Kraft are good. So lean under there, but nothing else too much, I don't think, in this team.
They're almost like our topic at the top. I think there's such a wide array of outcomes here. I think you're bullish on Green Bay. I understand why someone would be bullish on Green Bay. I would swing for a division win, almost 3-1, or even an NFC, right? Because we think that that's in the range of outcomes versus kind of attacking the binary 9.5 win total or something like that, because everything clicks here. They're legit. And this team was very close to going to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, which surprised everybody, right? They fell flat a little bit last year, but again, I think most teams, whoever was going to get that draw and go to Philly in round 1 was losing that anyway. So I don't want to massively discredit them for losing that playoff game, but I think just, again, Malik Willis, the fact that they were able to win those games or be super competitive with Malik Willis at quarterback kind of speaks to the coaching that's here as well. So the upside for the Packers is quite high, and would not fault anyone for thinking that they could come out of, I think, a pretty wide open NFC, or especially even the North here. So
shout out to the sports books. Malik Willis under is just fed families for a couple of weeks. I mean, it was they opened his line at 190 or something like that, 195. Yeah. It was just bananas. But I mean, LaFleur actually made him look pretty good. They just didn't pass the ball. His efficiency was actually fine, but he didn't pass. Obviously they're not going to pass for this guy. And there's all these fucking beat writer buffoons in my mentions saying that they were going to go pass heavy with Malik Willis. I'm like, dude, what? Lived under a rock? What is going on here?
Yeah. No thanks. I mean, that speaks to your pass rate over expectation splits. It was, what is that? I think the Tennessee game, I think he had 15, 12 attempts. It was just crazy, but
it was so low.
Yeah. That was the only game all year that I think you saw a pulse from the defensive line as well. They got a ton of pressure, but everyone got pressure on Will Levis in that offensive line. So yeah, they need to see that more specifically, more consistently, calling out Rashawn Gary to step up.
Here you go. He had 14 attempts against Indy and then 19 attempts against Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah. Sub 20 attempts. It's crazy.
I'm pretty sure that he had a 50-yard completion against both these teams, 60-yard completion against both these teams. Otherwise, he finished with 122 and then 202 in the Tennessee game, which I don't think we bet the Tennessee game, but it was crazy high. Yeah. Just a random long play.
Make you sweat for sure. But you love that. You love sweating that bad quarterback under 220.
I'm monitoring this Calvin Ridley injury, man. Cam Ward lines are up right now at 195. If Calvin Ridley is not playing week 1 against Denver, Cam Ward's throwing for $150. That's gonna be real tough. To who? Tyler Lockett, Alec Imanor, and Chig. They're toast, dude.
It's not good.
Yeah.
All right, the Vikings, again, another fascinating team. 28th from a strength of schedule standpoint. 28-1 to win the Super Bowl. 13-1 to win the NFC. Get them at plus 320 to win the division. The win total 8.5. Juice to the over. Fascinating handicap for this team. A lot of turnover. Again, massively exceeded expectations last season, especially considering what the expectations were once JJ McCarthy went down. I think they were actually probably pretty low or middling with JJ McCarthy because it's just a little bit more unknown. They've done a great job in free agency over the past couple of years that continue this offseason. It just comes down to, what do you think Kevin O'Connell can continue to do from a quarterback whisper standpoint? Is JJ McCarthy that guy? I think without a doubt, he was able to benefit from essentially a redshirt year, being in the meetings with Kevin O'Connell, seeing what he could do with Sam Darnold. Flores defense is fun. This is a really interesting team. What do you think about the Vikings?
Yeah, especially early on, they're going to have a couple of early tests here because I think they're going to be without Jordan Addison for the first 2 to 3 games. I think that's like an incoming pending suspension there. Justin Jefferson already suffered like a small hamstring tweak. And so now behind him, you're looking at Jalen Naylor, and I don't even know who else is past that, to be honest. Like, they just haven't gotten much run at this point. But TJ Hawkinson obviously is still there. Like, I think that like that starting point for JJ McCarthy with like a banged up Justin Jefferson and Jalen Naylor is not great against Chicago. I think their defense is, decent. We'll talk about that in a second, but I think that they can put it all together. I do think in the grand scheme of the whole season, I think that if Kevin O'Connell can figure out with Sam Darnold, if he can figure it out with an aging Kirk Cousins, and you have all these weapons still in place, like I'm pretty confident that they can figure it out with JJ McCarthy here. Offensive line's still good, as you mentioned, and the defense can cook like they did. Flores just continues to do crazy things and make stuff happen and be like lead a chaotic defense. And they were second in EPA defensively last year. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, this opened at 8.5, about even. I think the over there was pretty interesting. I've seen a lot of like 9.5s around even now. That's tough. I struggled to get there. That's like, it's really tough because we're looking at like, the schedule, like after their bye, they're dogs in 4 straight games, then, favorite against Chicago, then dogs in 3 straight games. Like, the schedule is just really tough in this division, and in like their out of division games are pretty tough. So it's just like a really tough path for me to think, oh yeah, this team is a good bet to win 10 games. That's a lot of wins.
It's a lot of wins. Unique little schedule nugget where they play like overseas in different spots in back-to-back weeks, like week 4 against the Steelers and week 5 against the Browns. The good news, I guess, is those are both road games for them, but they're neutral, right? Like, it's not a Steelers home game or a Browns home game, but they are in the schedule. So that kind of works out strange for them. If, again, body clock adjusts, you can figure all that out. Another spot is almost like the Packers where the volatility here is massive, right? I think the range of outcomes is pretty vast. The schedule is so much harder than it was last year. But I don't know. I'm kind of a JJ McCarthy believer. I think there is something to, especially quarterback, that like that magnetic personality, leader of men thing really matters. You got to, again, eventually have to snap the football and make quick decisions and actually play football. It doesn't matter if you're just a great rah-rah guy, but I think there's something to that. I think having last year probably really helped him to be able to just kind of sit back, observe, get some reps, and this just acclimating yourself to the NFL and all the pressures that come with that. And now you kind of figured out, where am I going to live? Where am I going to hang out? Where do I like to eat? You got all that stuff nailed going into year 2. Now you just got to go play ball. I think that those things kind of matter if he can play ball. And that's a huge question. But again, like, we had questions about Sam Darnold last year, but Kevin O'Connell can just kind of figure it out. And the offensive line, like I think they had a home run on both sides of the, interior lines, like great offseason. They could have maybe now one of the best. It was probably the worst interior offensive line last year. Now it might be like the best interior offensive line. The line could be like, again, I don't know where we have them ranked, but I'd imagine it's a top 10 unit, maybe even higher with like the range of outcomes with, if everyone stays healthy there. I think there's Darisaw is dealing with some injuries, but like Donovan Jackson, people loved. We drafted him in the first round, poached 2 really good guys from the Colts interior offensive line, Ryan Kelly at center, Will Fryers at guard. Like, that's a great unit now. So Jordan Mason can kind of mix in a little bit and keep Aaron Jones fresh. I feel like they're going to be able to kind of dictate how they want to beat you and play. And this Flores defense can take some kind of scrubs in the secondary or some questionable talent and make them okay, because they're so difficult to scheme against, and they play such a unique style that really no one else plays. Like you don't see it. So the division teams have an advantage because they get to face it a little bit, but it's really, really tricky. They were a little less blitz happy last year than they were the year prior, but they still super aggressive. They can bring it from all levels. They love to blitz their linebackers. They can blitz safeties. They put Metellus in all these different spots and do different things with him, drop him deep, blitz him. They're really hard to game plan for. So they create, when I look at like some of their defensive metrics, like there's more volatility there. Like, yeah, they're going to get a ton of pressure and they're going to turn teams over because like there's going to be a couple snaps a game where you don't have your protections called correctly and they have 8 guys coming and you got to figure it out on the fly. And that could be really tricky. So I like this team quite a bit. My concern is some of the secondary pieces, but I kind of just believe in Flores as one of these guys that just maybe isn't a head coach, but is just an absolutely elite coordinator and will be a talent maximizer, just like McConnell is on the offensive side.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think you laid it out really well. And it's one of those things that it's tough to see them having too many wins, but I can see it happening. Like, it's just like the schedule looks tough, but they're a good team. And like they're going to be able to run the ball. Like you said, the offensive line, we have them at 9th. ETR has them at like 5th. So like, yeah, I mean, really good offensive line, I think, this year. And so if their defense plays like they should and like they have been, I can't imagine that this Vikings team is not out of any game. So, and then like you mentioned, the Jordan Mason thing, I think is huge. Like our buddy Crack Rock has been talking up Jordan Mason all season. And Crack Rock, for all the, the hate that he gets on some of his stuff, he is plugged into like 3 teams. It's like the Vikings, the Jets, and the Giants. And he's pretty much bat 100 on like those teams. Anything else, there's some question. There's a couple of air balls here and there, but those 3 teams he's been basically money on. And that was like one of his biggest notes, was that Jordan Mason was going to come in, be the goal line back, be used a bunch. And then early on, they also said they were going to split work. So I was eyeing Aaron Jones under 750 rushing yards. I
thought you were.
I'm like going back and forth. It's like 750, 775. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. But the problem is Jones, like when he's healthy, he's just so good. Like,
yes,
when he's healthy and they're like feeding him, and this is all BS, like he's going to have like 1,200 yards if he's like alive. But if they split work and he still has the injury downside, like I don't think that he's really going to, I think he's going to be like 750 is a lot. I mean, that's a lot of yards for a guy splitting full time. So I don't know. I think the under there is interesting. And then, yeah, the win total is tough for me because, again, like 8.5 over that was interesting, but now 10 plus it's kind of like the Lions. Like, it's just tough to project to win them that many games. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it happens.
Again, I feel like a cop out. Like I think it's the same way that you play the Packers. Like if you are bullish on the Vikings, I think you just swing big, right? You take a 320 division, 13-1 to win the conference. Like the range of outcomes are pretty big. I mean, they're not young guys anymore, up front, but like Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave are still really good football players and a pretty big upgrade for the interior of the defensive line from what they had last year. It was not a great interior defensive line. And I don't know, Jonathan Grenard is awesome. I mean, Van Ginkel was amazing last year. Like those 2 dudes off the edge are a problem. They didn't get anything out of Dallas Turner, who barely played like 25% of the snaps. They're going to increase him last year, who's, again, coming in was thought to be the consensus top edge rusher in that class. He did not get drafted first, but he, was highly regarded out of Alabama. They have dogs on defense with like a coordinator that can absolutely let them loose. So I'm more on the bullish upside end of Vikings range of outcomes that I am on than a collapse here. Cause I just think they're going to be good defensively again, without a doubt. And if JJ is good, and I think he's going to be, they could be very interesting again. So yeah, I want to take some like strong stances and like give people bets, but it's really hard. Just like if anything that you've heard or done, and if anything that we could do sway you, like I think we're trying to tell you to take some swings on some of the upside stuff versus maybe just some of the binary win total things here.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Bears again, release schedule last year, 26th most difficult strength of schedule this year. So way harder. 44 to win the Super Bowl, 21 to win the NFC. They are plus 550 to win the division. Win total 8.5, juiced to the under. Started 4-2. Everyone was pretty excited. They won one more game down the stretch. Schedule got a little harder, and things kind of fell apart. Now, again, Ben Johnson, most coveted head coach candidate for the last few seasons. Bears finally brought him in. And again, it's stealing him from within division as well, I think, is a pretty massive piece. Another team that had, I think, a really nice offseason. Huge investment to upgrade the offensive line. Supporting cast is strong. We need Caleb to take a step forward here. Can they do that with a more difficult schedule? What do you think about the Bears?
Yeah, it's a really tough team to analyze because I think that in most divisions, you're looking at them as like probably the second best team or like a team that we think can win the division. In this instance, I think that they're probably the worst team, like roster construction wise, but you have Caleb Williams and you have Ben Johnson. And I think that combination, early camp reports, like the first 2 days, they said it was like a disaster. They said it was like a mess. The defense is winning every day, whatever. The last 2 or 3 days been pretty good. They're like, people are picking up steam. They're like, okay, this is humming along. They're running the 2-minute drills well. Like, I mean, Caleb Williams is doing a lot of new stuff, apparently. He's playing a lot under center. He's never played under center his entire career. He's like, learning an entirely new offense. I think there's a lot of new stuff going on here for him. So, yeah, honestly, I think that this Bears team is not going to necessarily start great offensively, but I think that down the line, like they have a lot of upside and they're going to play better and better. Obviously, you had Colston Loveland, who's already running with the ones. You have Luther Burden, who I don't know how much he's going to play this year. He already got kicked out of practice or something like that, or kicked out of a drill yesterday for not lining up correctly or not running the right route. Ben Johnson just yelled at him and told him to get out. And so that's a tough scene. He might be in the early doghouse, but he's a rookie. Like they don't really need him right now. That's kind of the point of him. So I think it'll be a lot of Rome, a lot of DJ, a lot of Colston Loveland. And then, the revamped offensive line, they're in such a good position to just like do whatever Ben Johnson needs to be done and like simplify the game for Caleb. So I'm excited offensively, and then defensively, I think just bringing in Dennis Allen, adding a little bit more up front. Like I think that all of these are good, kind of connections for this Bears team and like good additions. It's just like it's a lot of projection based for this team. It's something that we didn't see it all last year. It's all new. They had some talent, but it just like didn't pan out. So I don't know. Like it's very much projection based, but I think the upside is high if it all clicks.
Yeah, undoubtedly high upside. Caleb, like the sack rate's got to be on him a little bit.
For sure.
68 sacks taken is so many sacks. It's just a 28.2% pressure to sack rate, which is extremely unserious. Like you got to figure it out. Like it's got to be 20 or below to be competitive. You see the elites in the league that are, hovering in the low teens or, right around 10, 12%, 20, almost 30% of the time that you take pressure on, you go down with a sack. That's not it. So again, they've addressed the offensive line, so he'll get pressured less, but this is about going down when pressured. So, the raw sack total will go down as well, but at the same time, he's got to figure out a way to not run into them. I think some of that like hero ball stuff that we were worried about a little bit really came to fruition, and
For
like
sure.
that creation, bad habits that were developed maybe at USC, like you can't do that. Like you're dead on you're taking a sack that high. So the defensive side stuff is interesting. Dennis Allen could be another one of these guys that just, I don't know, he had a really long leash for some reason. He was a head coach for, I think, longer than anyone really thought. Was not a winning head coach with the Raiders or the Saints, but his defense is always like overperformed their talent. Like last year was a great example of it. And this is just another guy that I think is in a good spot, just being a coordinator, not having to be like the man. So you'll see, I think, more man coverage from the Bears this year. I think you'll see more press coverage. FTN has a really cool metric that they measure. It's like wide open completion percentage. It measures how often a targeted pass catcher has 5+ yards of separation. Basically, like how frequently does someone get wide open against you? The Bears, second worst in the league at 15%. Dennis Allen last year, the Saints, with a worse talent. Again, remember, they traded Marshawn Lattimore. They had so many injuries. Paulson Adobo went down. Like there was a bad secondary. They have the 6th best wide open completion percentage last year, just 7.6. So I think you'll see a little bit improvement there. They also didn't play with Kyler Gordon for most of the year. Jaquan Brisker was out for most of the year. I think they've done a good job adding defensive line help. They drafted Shamir Turner, Odedingbo, Grady Jarrett. Those guys up front kind of need some guys to support Montez Sweat. So there's, again, some talent and some reasons to be optimistic here. It's kind of come all together. And I think it all falls on Caleb in terms of what the ceiling is, because I think Ben Johnson's going to scheme well. He's going to make good decisions. He's going to be aggressive properly on fourth down, all those different things. Just can Caleb elevates and then start to take guys along with him?
And I think, I guess to help aid the projection here. So like I went back and looked at Jared Goff in 2021 with Anthony Lynn versus Jared Goff in 2022 with Ben Johnson. Now they added more pieces. Like that's, undeniable. I think that's when they added Amon-Ra, or it was like when he kind of came into the, limelight there. The offensive line did get better. But again, these are all similar things that the Bears are doing too. They're adding talent, they're adding offensive line, and they're adding Ben Johnson. So I don't think it's that crazy of a comparison. 2021, Jared Goff, 3,200 yards, 220 something per game, 6.6 yards per attempt, 19 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. 2022, 4,400 yards, 260 of a game, 7.6 yards per attempt. So it's like a full yard higher, 29 touchdowns, and then 7 picks. So way more pass attempts, way more efficient, way better, just top to bottom. Again, Caleb is like not the same quarterback at all as Jared Goff, but like seeing him take that kind of leap, I don't think that's that crazy. And so I did bet Caleb 4K plus yards. I think that's like, people saying the Bears quarterback's never done it in history. It's just like a stupid argument. Like I understand it, but like I think it's just dumb.
It's true, but it's not a reason why Caleb can't do it, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, I get it. Bears fans, we've been hurt, forever. The city of Chicago has been, painful. I wouldn't even consider myself a Bears fan, just someone who lives in Chicago. I know there's a lot of friends who have been in pain watching the Bears not have a competent quarterback ever, literally ever. I mean, Jay Cutler was like the closest to that, and that was obviously dysfunctional and for other reasons. So I don't know. I think it's more than possible. I think this leap forward makes sense, but does it translate to wins? That's the question. Does this translate to wins? I don't know. That's my question.
I mean, the schedule at the end, the schedule last year got tough, but those are important games to start. Minnesota at Detroit to start. But then you get, again, early bye week, which I don't typically love. I'm not going to make necessarily decisions in terms of futures or anything based off of that. I just don't necessarily love it on paper. But down the stretch, back-to-back 13 and 14 on the road, at Philly, at Green Bay. You get a little bit of a reprieve at home with the Browns. But then again, Green Bay at San Francisco and a Lions game in week 18, which if we think this division again is going to matter, it's going to be close, that game probably matters more so than – I don't think it's just fair to throw out week 18 games and be like, that's not going to matter. That very much could matter. I guess you'd rather have it at the end there, but they're going to get a divisional foe in week 18 because that's what the league does. And this division has nothing but good teams. So you just never know where that can be. But that's a tough little stretch of 6 games where, you're really only a favorite in one of them. And those, 3 of them are on the road. So that could be a really, really important stretch. Also back-to-back road games at Baltimore, at Cincinnati in the middle of the season. That's also not super favorable, right? So yeah, this is just a division where nothing really would surprise me almost in the order of where these teams fall. I guess I maybe would be surprised if the Bears won the division, the Lions were in last place, but I also maybe not. Like these teams are all really good. And they all have, I think, legit like Super Bowl aspirations, or at least the ability to contend and fight with the Eagles to be the top team in the NFC.
Yeah, no, I think that all adds up there. I've been comparing this team to be like, when Kyle Shanahan took over the Falcons in 2015, and he was the offensive coordinator there with Dan Quinn. They went 8-8. The offense was good, but not great. And then Matt Ryan in 2016, 2017 season, won the MVP and balled out and just things clicked. I just don't know if it clicks right away for Caleb. I don't know. I would be just really surprised if that happens. Again, I think a leap will happen. But again, Goff played even better after that, in the 2023 season and the 2024 season. He just got better and better and better in those progressive seasons. He wasn't immediately just incredible. He was good, but not incredible. And that's, he continued to get better. And that's what I expect we see from Caleb. So I don't want expectations to be too high for this Bears team. If they win 9 games, that's an awesome season given the schedule and like where they are. And if Caleb plays
Agreed.
well, but they could also win 7 games and Caleb could play really well. And that's just like, I think a normal range of outcome within like this schedule, because like Caleb could throw over 4,200 yards. And if, I don't know, the defense doesn't play well, or he throws 15 picks or 13 picks, like that's all, or they can't run the ball. Like, I mean, that's also possible too. So like, there's a lot of different outcomes here where this Bears team, I think, could win very few games and it'd still be encouraging. I don't really see a way that they end up winning like 10 or 11, to be honest, like 11 or plus. Like, it's really tough to imagine. They'd have to win all the gimmies, you know, the Saints, the Giants, the Browns for sure. And then they'd have to win like, yeah, basically every game they're favored in, plus a couple of 100 games they're underdogs in, which is pretty tough.
Yeah. What do you think about DeAndre Swift this season?
I worry about him. I've been trying to find more camp reports about, like, he's been playing with the first team. They tried to draft a running back 3 times and then traded back 3 times because they got sniped on a running back that was picked 1 to 3 picks before them. The last time he was with the Lions, Jamal Williams outcarried him by like 200 carries. It was like 150 carries with Ben Johnson. So I think he starts as the one. I think he probably sees a lot of work. Wouldn't surprise me to see more Roshan or Kyle Monungai. I just don't. Everything publicly, Ben Johnson said he's liked him, but I just don't believe it. I don't buy it. So I don't know what's going to happen. There's not really like a free agent that makes sense for them right now either. They could make a trade. Like Travis Etienne could make sense. I don't know. I mean, are you in on him? I'm worried. I think the downside is pretty hefty, to be honest.
Yeah, I was in on him more early in the offseason in like best ball drafts, and because
yeah,
I
8th, 9th
don't
round.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's getting a little bit more expensive, but I'm not out on him, but I feel like they could run the football. And I think that, obviously there's something Ben Johnson liked to do. He had a great offensive line and some really good backs. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe just we'll scheme different, but it's just another thing I think they need to do better to protect Caleb and just be a little bit more multiple. And I don't know. I'm interested in terms of like with the personnel too. If you're going to have Colston Loveland out there a little bit more as basically a big slot, then maybe an inline blocking tight end, how does that impact things too?
Yeah, I just think that there's like a non-zero chance that Swift just gets like straight up cucked at some point in the season and just like becomes the 1B, or like, I don't even know, like the 2. Like that's the non-zero chance if they trade for someone and Roshan's crushing or Monungai's crushing, and like I don't know. He's certainly going to start, I would say. Certainly start as the 1A. And if I could guarantee that, I think he'd be a great pick. Because like you said, I think they can run the ball. But I don't know. I worry like the downside outcomes are what happened when he was. I mean, Jamal Williams wasn't good. Like he just was like fine. No. Like he was just a bruiser that they loved, that they fed the ball to like 250 times.
I want to believe Caleb. I think the talent is undeniable. There's just a few bad things last year. Like if you were anti-Caleb, like you probably feeling pretty good based off of what happened last year.
I'm sure.
Pressure to sack rate. Oh yeah, that was a problem still. Below average, the second lowest EPA in the league from a clean pocket. So it wasn't even really good from a clean pocket, right? So we need to see steps forward, right? It can't just be arm talent, wild plays. You have to be able to have more singles and doubles. I think Ben Johnson's going to be better at scheming that than Shane Waldron, for sure. I think we all agree with that. You just need to see him execute the schemed singles and doubles and not play hero ball, right? Like just take the slant if it's there. You don't have to try to, make something happen deep down the field. And then just to see if he can run more too. Because I think when we saw him, actually in design runs and stuff like that versus the, getting rewarded for the scrambles, I think that's the problem. It's the design runs. I think he could be good at. So tough division. Any ways to bet it? Any favorite ways to bet it that you like here?
Man, it would probably be just like fading the Lions, like do like some kind of like Packers Vikings, or I don't know, Packers Bears, some kind of combo of that, like 1-2, and just fading the Lions, and then just like hope the Packers like win 13. I mean, the Vikings won like, what, they win 13 games last year, 14. It was like a crazy amount of games. Like, it's still possible. I think Packers can win like that range, and then another team could sneak in front of the Lions, with the Lions still winning like 8 or 9 games basically, and then the second place team just wins like 10 or 11. Like that's, I think, all within the range of outcomes. They just got to win a lot of their out of division games, which I mean, these are 4 of the best teams in the NFC. Like it's not saying a whole lot, but they are all really good teams.
Yeah, it's tough. I'd swing on some upside. Like you said, I would lean Vikings.
Yeah.
I lean Vikings. The coaching, I think is the kind of why I would do that.
What are they to win the NFC right now? Have you looked at that at all?
Yeah, 13-1.
Yeah,
13-1 on TK.
I mean, it's fine. Like, I don't know. Like, I think that they should be much. I mean, the Lions are 5-1. They should be much closer to that. They should be much closer to each other. But
yeah, Green Bay 11, Minnesota 13. So I mean, we're just getting, I think, a nice price break because of, I think the JJ McCarthy unknown is very much baked into those markets, right? Like everyone's going to agree that you take a stand or have that take, pro Minnesota. It's like, well, JJ McCarthy. It's like, well, this is a 13-win football team that we're now getting priced down, 4.5, 5 wins. Like that's a big deal. And like they ran into a buzzsaw with the Rams, who were built to crush the Vikings last year, right? And the interior offensive line problems with a team that has a loaded defensive line, and they made Sam Darnold eat it. And that game was like over right away. Now they've gone out and addressed the biggest problem, and then maybe upgraded a quarterback, and definitely upgraded some bodies on the defensive side too. So in the offensive line. So yeah, pro Minnesota. Chalk thing that I maybe like. I think that like 6-1 on Caesars for Aiden Hutchinson to lead the NFL in sacks is probably not a bad price.
Okay.
It's chalky, but I think you can get it done.
I opened up a Hard Rock account, and they gave me a bunch of bonus bets that I have to use in the next week. So I started just ripping random NFL futures, and I'm trying to like clean the count a little bit. And so I put a future of Aiden Hutchinson most sacks. I saw your thing, and Cubs to win the World Series. I did a parlay of the two. It's like a $25 bonus bet, something like that. I don't know.
All right, there you go.
Man. Yeah, so I just thought it was fun. Trying to again keep that account clean for as long as possible. Maybe have another out for at least a couple weeks during football season.
Yeah, there you go. That's definitely an account maintenance bet. Sack leader with a World Series bet. Definitely, you want to keep that account good in good standing.
I might do another one like Caleb MVP or something like that, like or just like Caleb 4,000 passing yards and Cubs World Series and like Bulls to make the playoffs. Just something like Chicago parlay for fun.
I don't think I'd bet the Bulls to make the playoffs, but that's
I wouldn't either. That might be the biggest long shot of all those, to be honest.
Yeah, that's rough. All right, see, good advice. Account maintenance bets, they're good.
It works.
Money line parlays, occasionally just mix it in. Got to keep those accounts in good standing. So yeah, Caesar 6-1. My first run, I went and tinkered some stuff, and I still have Hutchinson like 2 clear of anybody else. I think from like a per snap basis, Myles Garrett would be the best, but I think Myles Garrett's going to see significantly fewer pass rush snaps because his team is pretty terrible. Yeah, and I think, second half, he's going to be trying to defend the run a bunch. So that impacts that. So yeah, be a way to bet it if you wanted to get down on something in the futures market. Caesars will take your action. So, all right, everybody. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us again. Move the line wherever you listen to podcasts. 4for4 bets on the YouTube channel. Come back next week for sure. We're going to keep the NFC train rolling, and we'll have some exciting news to share on the 4for4 betting subscription that we are. Hopefully, we'll share it a little bit next week. Maybe get it up there and let you see what we have coming. So, appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Subscribe, like before you take off. For Connor, I'm Ryan. See you all next time. Thanks, everybody.